After 8 months of full-time travel without flying, we found ourselves headed to China. In February of this year, we were in Thailand when we discovered that China would be granting Canadians 30-day visa-free access. So we decided to change our southbound Vietnam travel to be northbound and head into China.
In this first video of our series, we're going to walk you through how we prepared for, what we experienced, and some recommendations we have for other travelers who might be headed to China. In our upcoming videos, we will go into more detail on the cities we visited, the foods we ate, the experiences that we had, and the rest of our no-fly travels through China. So hit the subscribe button so you don't miss them.
Once we realized that we could exit Vietnam through China to reset our Vietnamese visa, we headed north. We then decided that we would spend a month touring around the Yunnan province of China. We didn't really know a lot about it as travelers, but we decided that we would make a loop and just come back through the same land border that we exited from. To start our journey, we made our way to Hanoi to finalize our plans, and while there, we determined that our best option was to hire a car and driver to get us to the border. We were picked up right at our hotel and drove the 4.5 hours to Lao Cai, which would be our crossing point into China. Lao Cai is a border town where the river divides Vietnam and China, and we were dropped off right at the Vietnam immigration border gate. First, we waited in line to stamp out of Vietnam and then walked across the Friendship Bridge towards Chinese immigration. It is a strange feeling to be stamped out of one country but not yet allowed into the next. You truly are in limbo. While our Canadian passports provided visa-free access into China, we also needed to complete the Chinese digital arrival card form on the Chinese immigration website within 72 hours of our arrival, and also a health declaration within 24 hours of crossing into China. Once both were completed online, which was a very straightforward process, we received confirmations and QR codes that we needed to get into the country. Once we entered the Chinese immigration building, we were faced with e-gates. I thought that they would open by scanning the QR health code on the health declaration, but as we approached them, they just simply opened for us. We walked around the corner and there were a few guards standing there who approached us, asking us where we were from and for our passports. We showed them, and when they saw Canada on them, they started to direct us towards a counter to fill out a paper arrival card. We showed them our phones and that we'd already done it online and that we had QR codes. They looked impressed and they just directed us right into the immigration lines. Luckily, there was no one else there, so we really didn't have to wait and we were able to go right up to the counter.
At the counter, they scan your passport again, they ask you a few questions, and they scan your fingerprints. And this is where it's important to have preferably a printed copy of your full itinerary from that point forward into China. We had that printed off, but only one of us had the printed copy and one of us doesn't have a very good memory. So I got grilled a little bit more as to where we were going to be going through China. I was able to remember a few of the names, and then the guard started smiling a little bit and realized I was in over my head and that I actually was pretty harmless. And they let us pass through. But next time, having 2 printed copies of your full itinerary ready to go will
preferably in Chinese.
Make sure the itinerary is in Chinese, because again, they do not speak very much English. And to avoid a bit more delay and confusion, have it printed off in Chinese. We learned our lesson and we were better prepared the next time. All in all, the entire process took about 45 minutes, about 30 minutes on the Vietnamese stamping out side, and about 15 minutes on the Chinese entry side. That probably would have been less if one of us hadn't slowed things down. And now is a good time to tell you about the apps you need to have prepared before entering China. First and foremost, you're going to want to have Trip.com for booking hotels and trains. You're going to want to use Didi for all your car ride-hailing activities. Maps is the go-to maps app that is going to give you much more detailed information when traveling in China. And then for payment systems, WeChat and Alipay are the required ones. There's nothing else is going to work, so get these set up and ready to go.
Once we crossed the border, we decided that it was a good idea to get a bit of cash. So we found a currency exchange right outside the building, and we exchanged some Vietnamese money for Chinese money. And it was a good thing we did because we actually needed it fairly quickly.
So even though we were prepared, we didn't realize that the Didi ride-hailing app does not work in Hekou. So after a few frustrating moments of working on our phone and hailing down a cab, that extra cash that we took out at the very beginning paid off right away.
Booking our hotel with Trip.com also turned out to be a smart idea, because when we needed to hail the cab, we needed to be able to tell the driver who spoke no English where we were going. With Trip.com, there is a translation available that will take your address and name of your hotel and put it into Chinese characters so you can just show them to the cab driver. We spent one night in Hekou, and then the next morning, the hotel called us to cab to get us to the train station. That cab ride, we figured out how to use WeChat Pay and that it was working. So we paid using our phones for the first time, and it was a real relief to be able to figure out how to do that. Throughout our 27 days in China, we never again used cash.
So basically, Alipay, WeChat Pay, and the occasional use of an international credit card covered all of our purchasing needs during our entire time in China. We were really relieved to be able to use a QR code payment system again because we had just become very accustomed to using one in Thailand and Vietnam, specifically the Moretta app. In fact, we did an entire video on that you can see here.
The train station in Hekou was our very first experience with rail travel in China, and it was incredibly easy to navigate. In China, your passport is your ticket for trains and major attractions, so you have to keep it on you at all times. The first time it is scanned is just to enter the station. Then your luggage is x-rayed and you go through the metal detectors and security wands. After that, you head to the waiting area, which features massive display boards that clearly show all upcoming departures and gates. Trip.com is amazing at sending you live updates directly to your phone regarding any changes in time or gate for your train. To board the train, they scan your passport a second time. The third time you scan it is after you arrive, just to be allowed to leave the station's arrival area and enter the city. When lining up to enter or exit any stations, always look for the manual line, as an attendant will physically scan your passport. The other lines are for Chinese citizens who scan their ID cards. We booked mostly first-class trains, but did try a second-class one for our shortest leg, which was completely fine. The main difference is the 2x2 seat configuration in first class versus the 2x3 layout in second class. In first class, you also get a complimentary water, juice, or soft drink, along with a snack box. Tickets cost about 40% more for first class. There is also a business class choice, which costs twice as much as first class. It looks pretty swanky. We might give it a try next time. Our train rides varied in price based on distance, and we assume the popularity of the route. We will list all of the exact train costs in the description below. The seats are very comfortable, and the trains have great air conditioning. We didn't detect any Wi-Fi on board, but we were always able to use our cell data on the train. Just keep in mind that some routes may have long tunnels, so the cell service can come and go sporadically. The trains usually have a dining car, or you can scan the QR code at your armrest and have food delivered directly to your seat. However, we could not get this specific feature to work as the system runs through the official train app network 12306, which we could not get to work with our international phone service. Because of that, we always brought our own snacks purchased from one of the many convenience stores at the station. Our longest train was only about 5 hours, so it wasn't a big deal. When exiting the massive stations, you sometimes feel like you're walking through a shopping mall food court. Luckily, we could always figure out where the ride-hailing area was because the signage is fantastic, showing you which way to go. We really appreciate that other countries provide designated organized area for ride-hailing services, often completely separate from regular taxis. We were approached by drivers and cabbies inside the stations and outside, but a polite no thanks, and they often left us alone. It can take a while for a car to be assigned simply because there are so many people exiting the train station at the exact same time. It can be a bit chaotic, but we were always successful using Didi. Using Didi is exactly the same as Uber or Grab, and it completely eliminates the language barrier since not one of our drivers spoke English.
Now, we had heard a lot of rumors about the Great Firewall of China and that most of our Western apps just wouldn't work, which wasn't completely true. When we got to China, we were still using our phone service and our data service, both from a service called Phonus, which has been bulletproof for us throughout our travels. That, combined with our VPN through Surfshark, gave us quite a bit more access. Once the VPN was on, we were easily able to access Facebook, Instagram, and thankfully YouTube. With the VPN turned on, it did slow down some of the hotel Wi-Fi, but it wasn't a big issue and we just made it work. And while we now had access to Google Maps, we still stuck with the Chinese version A Maps. It just ran faster, it was more accurate, it provided the names of places in Chinese characters, so if you did have to stop for directions, that was much easier. And it had this really cool 3D capability that not only showed you what the buildings looked like, but also showed you the colors of them and some more identification to make finding them a lot easier in the city.
Since you need your phone at all times in China for payments, as well as you're probably going to be using your camera a lot, you do need to keep it fully charged, and you also should take a battery pack with you. They're available all over the cities.
And when we return to China, we probably will get a local phone number set up just so we can access some of the additional apps that are located within Alipay and use some of the food delivery services.
When in China, you're also going to need to become pretty comfortable with using translation apps. So we had Apple and Google. They both worked fine. The hotel staff are pretty quick to pull out their phones to chat with you through there because they really want to make sure they understand what you're asking them. So that made it great.
AI can also be a big help in using these translation apps because on occasion, even though everything looked fine and the translation app had downloaded the correct language, there was still some uncertainty on the side of the person we were trying to talk to. So we realized that there were some dialect issues possibly on the regions that we were traveling through. So we used things like ChatGPT and Gemini to ask them very specific questions on when in this area of China or this city specifically, what's the proper way of saying hello or goodbye or thank you that is more attuned to the language that they're speaking. And that was very helpful and something you might want to think about. It's not necessary, but if you're going to be someplace for a while, recommend using AI a little bit to augment the services provided by your translation app. A side note is that Alipay and WeChat Pay both have translation capabilities as well, but we were very comfortable with using Google and Apple, so we just stuck with what we knew.
China was an absolutely wonderful place to visit, and our entry into the country was just the start of our adventure. We traveled to incredible cities and saw spectacular landscapes along the way. We are very excited to share all the things we saw, tasted, and learned during our month in this incredible country.
In our next video, we discuss Giang, the very first city we visited when we entered China, and everything that we experienced while we were there and views from the high-speed train we took on our travels. And thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone you think may be interested in visiting China someday. And until the next one, bye-bye.
Bye.